Tonight, while most people sleep, a door closes. It doesn't knock. It doesn't warn you. It doesn't wait to see if you were ready. It simply closes the way Pluto closes things, with a kind of quiet, permanent efficiency that doesn't ask for your opinion. Tomorrow, April 10th, the Moon crosses into Aquarius and makes exact contact with Pluto. That conjunction doesn't negotiate. It doesn't offer extensions. It executes a new order, one that has been building since January 2020, and whatever is still sitting unfinished on the wrong side of that door stays there. But here's what makes today, April 9th, the most important day in this entire sequence. Today is the last day you have real agency over what gets released. Tomorrow, Pluto decides. Today, you decide. And if you think that's a small distinction, you haven't been paying attention to how Pluto operates. You didn't find this video by accident. Something in you recognized the signal before your conscious mind caught up. That pull in your chest, that low-grade hum of something unfinished. That's not anxiety. That's your timeline breaching you. That's the part of you that already knows what tonight requires, trying to get the rest of you on board. Before this video ends, you're going to understand exactly what the universe is asking of you today, why it cannot wait until tomorrow, and precisely what happens if you answer that call versus what happens if you don't. Comment "I am ready" below. Not as a hope, as a declaration. Your timeline responds to commitment, not to intention. Let me tell you exactly what is happening in the sky today, because you deserve the real picture. Not a watered-down version designed to make you feel good, but the actual mechanics of what is bearing down on your life right now. The Moon has been moving through Capricorn all day. Capricorn is Saturn's domain, the sign of reckoning, of structural audit, of the universe looking at everything you've built, everything you've been carrying, everything you've told yourself you still need, and asking with zero sentimentality what is real and what is just familiar. That Moon is bearing down on Pluto at 3 degrees Aquarius. When it crosses that threshold tomorrow and makes exact contact, the conjunction perfects. The new order locks. The timeline snaps into its next configuration. And the Sun? The Sun is sitting at 19 degrees Aries. That's not passive energy. That's the sovereign self at full ignition, the part of you that acts, that initiates, that cuts through fog and moves. Today, that solar fire is aimed directly at the Capricorn structures in your life. The things that have been holding their shape out of sheer inertia. The architecture that made sense for who you were in 2020 and has been quietly suffocating who you're becoming in 2026. Here's what you need to understand about this configuration. Pluto does not care about your feelings about change. It cares about change. The Moon-Pluto conjunction tomorrow is not an invitation. It is the execution of a directive that was written 6 years ago when Saturn and Pluto met at 22 degrees Capricorn and demolished the old world down to its foundations. You've been building something real in the rubble ever since. Tomorrow, what you've built either locks in or gets revised by a force that doesn't consult you. Today is the last day you get to be the one holding the pen. Here's what separates today from every other astrological event you've watched come and go without changing anything fundamental about your life. This isn't a transit, this is a timeline shift, and those are not the same thing. A transit is weather. It moves through, it affects the mood, it creates conditions, and then it passes and you're more or less the same person on the other side of it. You've lived through hundreds of those. You've watched the videos, felt the energy, moved on. What is happening between tonight and tomorrow is structural. It doesn't pass through. It locks in, and what locks in with it is a version of you. Either the version you consciously chose, or the version Pluto chose for you by default. Go back to January 12, 2020. Saturn and Pluto conjunct at 22 degrees Capricorn. That wasn't a transit. That was a demolition order on every structure in the collective that was built on something false. False security, false identity, false foundations that looked solid until the pressure came and they didn't hold. Your life, if you're honest about it, was one of the things that got pressure tested that year. And something in you, maybe a lot of things, didn't survive it. Not because you failed, because it was supposed to come down. What you've been doing since 2020 is building, in the dark mostly. Without applause, without certainty about where it was all going, just doing the work because something in you knew, not hoped, knew that it mattered. That 6-year construction phase ends tonight, but here's what nobody told you about the shift into Pluto in Aquarius. The rule set changes. What worked in Capricorn, grinding, enduring, outlasting, proving yourself through sheer sustained effort. That energy carried you to the door. It does not carry you through it. Aquarius doesn't reward accumulation. It rewards alignment. It doesn't respond to effort. It responds to frequency. The timeline snap happening tomorrow isn't asking you to work harder. It's asking you to become clearer. To shed the weight of who you had to be in the survival years so the person you're actually becoming can step forward without dragging the old structure behind them. Tonight is the last night of the old gear. You don't have to grieve it. You built something real with it. But you do have to put it down. And you have been feeling it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Not in a vague, something feels off kind of way. In a specific, your body knows exactly what this is kind of way. The Capricorn Moon doesn't do ambiguity, it does precision. And for the past several days, it has been sending you signals so clear that part of you has been actively working to not hear them. So let me name them for you. You've been waking up between 3 and 4 in the morning, not with panic, with a list, not your to-do list, a different kind of list. The one your soul keeps, the unfinished conversations, the decisions you've been performing like you already made them but haven't actually made, the thing you keep almost dealing with and then don't. You've had moments this week of unsettling clarity, flashes where you could see, with uncomfortable precision, exactly what is holding you back. Not vaguely, specifically. You know the thing. You have known the thing for longer than you want to admit. The only question has been whether you were going to let yourself act on what you already know. You felt a strange combination of exhaustion and readiness, like you've been carrying something so long your arms have gone numb. But somewhere underneath the numbness, there is a version of you already imagining what it feels like to finally put it down. That is not dysfunction. That is not anxiety. That is your timeline briefing you in the only language the Capricorn Moon speaks. Direct, specific, and completely without mercy. Your system is not broken. It is primed. The only thing left is the decision. I want to give you a framework for what is actually being asked of you today, because once you see it, the confusion about what to do tonight disappears completely. I call it the Final Ascent Doctrine. And it works like this. Before every real threshold, every genuine timeline shift, every moment where one version of your life ends and a structurally different one begins, there is a final phase, a period where the old structure is still standing, still functional, still providing the scaffolding that held you together through the construction years. And in that final phase, the universe presents you with a precise, non-negotiable choice. You can dismantle that scaffolding yourself, tonight, consciously, with your hands, on your terms, with full awareness of what you're releasing and why. Or Pluto dismantles it for you tomorrow. Same result. Completely different experience getting there, and completely different version of yourself on the other side. This is what the Capricorn Moon is doing today. It is conducting the final audit before the wrecking ball swings. It is showing you, with that cold, precise Saturnian clarity, exactly what is load-bearing and what has already served its purpose, what is part of your foundation and what is scaffolding that you've been mistaking for foundation. Because you've been holding it up for so long, it feels like it's holding you. There are 3 categories of what needs to be released tonight, and I want you to hear all 3 before you decide which one belongs to you. Because for some of you it's one, and for some of you it's all 3. The first is the identity debt, the roles, obligations, and responsibilities you are still maintaining, not because they serve your mission, but because they've become part of how you define yourself as capable, reliable, indispensable. Capricorn's deepest shadow is the person who cannot stop carrying, because stopping would force them to confront who they are when they're not the one holding everything together. Tonight, that question surfaces. You need to answer it honestly. The second is the permission wall, the internal architecture of what you've told yourself you're allowed to want, but counts as realistic for someone like you, who gets to have the life you are actually building toward. These walls are invisible, but the Capricorn Moon sees them tonight with X-ray precision. Naming them out loud is the demolition. You don't need a ceremony. You need honesty. The third is the grip on outcome. The conditional surrender. The I'll trust the process once I see evidence. The attachment to the specific shape your breakthrough is supposed to take. The one your current imagination can picture, which means the one that belongs to the old map. Pluto in Aquarius operates above that level. It is building something your current vision cannot fully see yet. Tonight you trade the map for the territory. Here's what the Final Ascent Doctrine ultimately says. You are not being asked to destroy anything. You are being asked to complete it. There is a difference between demolition and completion. One is violent, the other is an act of mastery. Tonight you complete. Tomorrow Pluto builds on what you cleared. The scaffolding has done its job. Honor it. And then take it down. Now let's get specific. Because the Capricorn Moon doesn't do general, and neither will I. Whatever your sign, what follows is your precise activation for April 9th. The exact area of your life the Moon is auditing tonight. The specific question it's asking. And the one thing you need to do before you sleep, Aries. The Sun is in your sign right now, burning at full intensity through your first house. You are running on maximum solar fuel, but the Capricorn Moon is activating your 10th house. Career, public legacy, the version of ambition you've been performing versus the one that actually belongs to you. Here's your question tonight. Are you building what you want, or what looks like what you want? Write down the professional obligation you've been executing out of identity rather than mission. That is what you're releasing. Taurus. Venus is home in your sign, and your nervous system finally has traction after weeks of friction, but the Capricorn Moon activates your 9th house. Your belief system, your long-range story, the vision of your future that was written by a smaller version of yourself. You've outgrown that story. You know it every time you try to get excited about it and can't quite get there. Tonight you write the next sentence. The one that doesn't shrink to fit what seems reasonable, Gemini. The Capricorn Moon lands in your 8th house of shared resources, psychological contracts, and the power dynamics you've been quietly participating in without fully naming. Today something becomes visible that you've been peripherally aware of, but not ready to confront. Name it tonight, not to anyone else, to yourself, with full clarity and zero softening. That act alone begins the dissolution. Cancer. Your 7th house of partnerships is under the Moon's final audit. Romantic, professional, or the relationship you have with how other people perceive you. Something in this territory has been running on an old contract. Tonight's question is blunt. Are you staying in this dynamic, out of genuine alignment, or out of fear of who you'd be without the role it gives you? The honest answer is your instruction. Leo, the Capricorn Moon activates your 6th house. Daily systems, physical energy, the invisible architecture of how you actually spend yourself versus how you believe you do, today reveals the gap between those two things with uncomfortable precision. The routine you told yourself is sustainable while it quietly drains you. Before Pluto redesigns this for you, you get to make one structural change tonight, not a plan. An actual change. Starting now, Virgo, your 5th house of creative expression and authentic joy is being audited. This one might land hard. How long have you been productive at the cost of being alive? What have you sacrificed at the altar of responsibility that was never actually required of you? Joy is not a reward for finished work, Virgo. It is a prerequisite for the frequency you're being called into. Tonight, you identify one thing you've been starving, and you give it a specific date on your calendar. Libra. Fourth house activation, your private world, your home, the foundational emotional truth you carry into every room before anyone can see it. Something in your domestic or inner architecture no longer matches who you are in 2026. You feel it in your body when you enter certain spaces. The moon's final audit asks, what needs restructuring, not eventually. Tonight you name it. Naming it moves it from background noise to something you can actually work with. Scorpio, third house. The narrative circulating in your immediate world, the stories you're telling about yourself and your circumstances. Today, the moon reveals a story that has quietly curdled from truth into limitation. The version of your history written in the wound rather than the wisdom. Before Pluto amplifies your voice tomorrow, tonight you decide which story you're actually carrying into the new timeline. Choose deliberately. What you narrate, you inhabit. Sagittarius. Second house of values, self-worth and material reality. The Capricorn Moon tonight is running an audit that has nothing to do with your bank balance and everything to do with the one area of your life where you've been accepting less than you know your worth. You know exactly what it is you've known for months. Tonight you say it out loud to yourself, clearly, without the usual softening. That's not drama. That's the demolition. Capricorn. The moon is in your sign. This is the most personal activation in the entire cycle. The final review of who you've been required to be versus who you actually are underneath all of it. One belief about what it means to be you. The serious one, the dependable one, the one who never breaks, has completed its purpose. It carried you through the years it needed to. Tonight, it retires. You don't have to perform its funeral. Just stop performing its requirements. Aquarius. You are hours away from the moon entering your sign and conjoining Pluto. Tonight you are in the liminal space, the preparation chamber, the silence before the signal. The Capricorn moon is asking you to consciously release what you've been carrying in the dark. The deferred vision, the hope you stopped voicing because it felt too large. The version of yourself you've been protecting by not fully claiming. Clear the chamber. Tomorrow it fills with something that doesn't leave. Pisces, 11th house of community, collective mission, and your place in the larger unfolding. The Capricorn moon is asking one direct question tonight. Which network, alliance, or collective vision are you still operating within that belongs to the old version of your purpose? Not with bitterness, with genuine gratitude for what it gave you, and with clear eyes about the fact that the next chapter requires a different field. You cannot carry the new frequency into the old container. Tonight you acknowledge that. The rest follows naturally. Let me tell you what actually happens tomorrow when the moon conjoins Pluto and Aquarius. Not what people hope happens, not the fantasy version. What actually happens. The reward is not external. It is not a sudden windfall. It is not a relationship materializing out of nowhere or a long overdue recognition finally arriving. Those things may come, and for many of you they will, but they are not the reward. They are the reflection of the reward. The real reward is structural. It is the moment you feel in your body, not think, feel, that your floor has changed, that the thing that used to be your ceiling is now something you are standing on. That the version of you who started this 6-year construction phase in the rubble of 2020, scared, uncertain, building in the dark without knowing what you were building toward, that version would not recognize how solid the ground beneath you has become. That is what locks in tomorrow. That is what the Moon-Pluto conjunction in Aquarius seals into place. But it can only be built on cleared ground, and that is what tonight is for. So here's your instruction. Not a ritual, not a ceremony, no crystals required. Tonight, before you sleep, you get still. You get honest, and you answer one question with the full authority of everything you have survived and everything you are becoming. What is complete? Not what do you wish were complete? not what should theoretically be finished. What do you know in your body has served its purpose and is ready to be honored and released. You already have the answer. You have had it for longer than you have been willing to admit. The only thing standing between you and that release is the decision to stop waiting for a better moment. This is the better moment. Deliver the closing declaration with full weight. No rush. No apology. Every word lands. The old timeline is closing. The new one is locked. I release with intention what I have carried with honor. I do not wait for Pluto to decide for me, because I am the architect of this demolition. My foundation is cleared. My frequency has shifted, and what is coming cannot be stopped, because I am the one who opened the door. Tomorrow the timeline snaps. Tonight, you choose which side of it you're standing on. If you're still watching, I want to thank you, not casually, but genuinely. This community shows up with a level of seriousness and intention that I do not take for granted. If this video moved something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight. Subscribe if you haven't, because what's coming in the days ahead builds directly on what we've set in motion here. And leave your declaration below. The door is open. Walk through it.